I did that until Dodd-Frank changed the rules and made it, against the rules to sell owner financed houses to people.
Mm.
And so we quit doing that about whenever Dodd-Frank kind of came along.
And
And
how
then
did
we
you
started
pivot?
doing raw land.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you pivoted to land, you said?
And then we started doing land and cutting land up and selling it to small businesses.
Oh, wow. And tell us about, because I know you said, you bought 1,000 properties at one time. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I started off buying single family houses, then I went to duplexes and fourplexes. And then during one of the last busts, like in early 2000s, we started buying big office buildings and apartment complexes and light industrial.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Pros podcast. I'm Kristen, and I'm here with David Buttross. He is a real estate investing pro. He's going to get into all of the deals he has going on. He's done a really impressive lot of things, leading up to this time. So thank you so much for being here, David.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So tell us how you got into real estate in the beginning.
I was 15 years old and my dad had a couple rent houses. And I asked him, how do you buy a rent house? And he told me. And I said, well, I want to buy a rent house. He's like, well, you've got to have, at least $10,000 down to buy a rent house. And I said, well, I've got $5,000. He's like, well, where did you get the $5,000? I said, well, I saved it cutting yards. So I ran upstairs and grabbed my shoebox and I handed him $5,000 and I bought half of a house with him when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And then before my 16th birthday, I bought a Porsche. And then when I was 16, I bought a whole rent house. And then 17, I bought like a couple more, and 18, I bought some fourplexes.
Wow. So you were just in it right away.
Yes, ma'am.
It's impressive that you were saving your money even back then, not blowing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of things to spend money on in the 80s, so it was easier to save it back then.
That's amazing. So did you work alongside your dad in the beginning, or were you kind of on your own?
I would. He would take me to show me the houses before he'd buy them, and sometimes would fix them up together. I'd go with them to sign leases and meet tenants. He had one property where the tenant bought a baby lion and a baby tiger, and that was like really cool to see it. And then like 18 months later, they're like full grown and they had like destroyed the house.
Whoa.
So I learned from him, he said, don't rent houses to people who have baby lions and tigers.
That's a great piece of advice.
It's kind of stuck with me over the years. So
yeah. And then, what about real estate really hooked you?
I wasn't very smart. And so I felt like, this is an industry that I could get into where I don't have to be really smart to make a living doing it. And so I got my real estate license when I was 18. Actually, the truth is I wanted to kind of be rich when I was younger. And so I Googled, I guess back then they didn't have Google, but I searched up, how do you get rich? And back then it was real estate, car dealing, and inheritance. And my great-grandfather lived to be like 97. So I knew I wasn't going to be inheriting any money anytime soon. So when I turned 18, I got my real estate license. And when I turned 19, I got my car dealing license.
Oh, wow.
And
So you hit
so,
it from both sides.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
yeah, and you spend, 40% of your income on your house and you spend 30% of your income on the car. So I felt like if I could use my real estate license and have a free place to live and use my car dealing license to have a free car, that covers 70% of my expenses. And so I kind of got those two bases covered at a young age.
Wow. What does it take to get your car dealing license?
In Texas, it was pretty easy back then. You had to have a $25,000 bond, which cost $200 a year, an office, 5 parking spaces, a filing cabinet, and a little thing on your door that said what time your hours of operation are.
Mm.
And so you don't have to pay sales tax on cars.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like from a really young age, you really knew how to work the system to your benefit.
Yes, ma'am.
And then lead us up to kind of your journey throughout, building up your equity.
So my goal is to own a bunch of rent houses. So when I was like 26, I was like, let me get up to 100 rent houses. So or maybe I was 25. I was 25 and I had 100 rent houses. And all of a sudden I realized I was losing $100 a month per rent house. And so that was like $10,000 a month I was losing in cash flow. I'm like, well, shoot, these single family houses do not cash flow. This is not a good way to sell houses. And so I tried to list them for sale and none of them would sell because they were kind of in rough parts of town. I'm like, well, this is not going to end well because when you're 25 years old, it's hard to make an extra 10 grand a month to cover your negative cash flow.
Mm.
So I'm like, this is not going to end well. And so then I offered owner financing on one of the houses and it sold in like one day. And so I sold the 100 houses owner financed and I went from having negative $10,000 a month in cash flow to positive $10,000 a month in cash flow and got about $1 million net worth back then.
Okay.
And then that's kind of where I came up with the model of, buying fixer uppers and selling them owner financed. And I did that until Dodd-Frank changed the rules and made it, against the rules to sell owner financed houses to people.
Mm.
And so we quit doing that about whenever Dodd-Frank kind of came along.
And how
then
did you
started
pivot?
doing raw land.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you pivoted to land, you said?
And then we started doing land and cutting land up and selling it to small businesses.
Oh, wow. And tell us about, because I know you said, you bought 1,000 properties at one time. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I started off buying single family houses, then I went to duplexes and fourplexes. And then during one of the last busts, like in early 2000s, we started buying big office buildings and apartment complexes and light industrial. And I like the apartment complexes because you could buy an apartment complex and have a bunch of people on salary, like air conditioning guys and handymen. And so when you had the guys on salary, then it became more affordable to start fixing up houses around it. So we did that. And then basically every couple of years, there's a different segment in the market that becomes popular and not popular. So then once apartment complexes got to be too expensive, we started buying light industrial. Then we started buying office buildings. Then they got to be too expensive. And so there's always a cycle.
Right.
And so we also bought a lot of houses on the courthouse steps. We'd buy a lot of houses, foreclosure houses at the auction, which was kind of nice. And we bought a bunch of those in like 07, 08, 09, and did a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah. So how do you, create your strategy when something doesn't seem to work as much anymore? How do you transfer to something else?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors. and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
So I try to figure out the segment of the market that nobody wants. And basically, like in 2015 or 14, I realized, banks won't lend on a house that's less than $50,000. So once a house goes from $51,000 to $49,000, you have to pay cash for the house. And the pool of buyers that can buy a house for cash is a lot smaller than the pool of buyers that can pay $250 a month in payments on a $51,000 house. So once a house became worth less than 50, they basically went in value from 50 down to 25 because they had no financing. And so I'd buy the house for 25, I'd fix it up a little bit, and then I could sell it for 52 because it was worth 52 all day long. So that was kind of our model, was buying the houses that were really $50,000 houses and buying them for 25.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting that, you say you like to buy the stuff that nobody wants. So tell us about kind of like the cyclical nature of the market and how, that seems to be a good bet for you.
Well, so everybody jumped into single family houses. And so that's what I did. And then I got out in 2019. I always seem to get out 2 years early. But, I bought all those until there was no more equity in there. And then once interest rates went down to zero, the price of single family houses got super stupid high. And the math didn't make sense. So I always like to do deals where they were a win-win deal. So I could sell the house owner financed and the person's payments were $400 a month less than rent. And so why would they ever quit paying me and then have to pay $400 a month more to live across the street? And so I always try to work a little bit harder to do a win-win deal where I make money and my customer even benefits even more than I did. And so once that delta between rent payments and mortgage payments changed to where there was no longer $400 a month, I got out of it because I thought there was a lot of downside risk in the single family market. And then when interest rates went to zero, I'm like, it's going to be hard for interest rates to go below zero. And basically what happens was when interest rates go down, prices go up. And when interest rates go up, prices go down. And I got really lucky getting started in like 81 because in 1981, interest rates were 15% and prices were really low. And so for 40 years, interest rates went from 15% to zero and prices went straight up when interest rates went down. And so I hated to get out of the market when interest rates were zero because I could afford to buy whatever I wanted. But that meant that everyone else could afford to buy whatever they wanted. And I had to kind of sit on the sideline when everyone made a lot of money for those 18 months. But when the market crashed, and it's still crashing, I wasn't in the market. And I wasn't in that asset class.
Yeah. So you have just like a long-term perspective about things, not necessarily like the short-term pop.
Yeah. And so like when interest rates went down to zero, I pivoted. And I'm like, well, what segment of the market got hit the most when interest rates were zero? And the only place that I could buy stuff was timberland. So I went out and bought 8,500 acres of timberland. And I felt like the timber would be an inflation hedge. And so I'm sitting on a bunch of timberland right now.
Wow. And as far as like geographical area, you're very diverse, right?
Yes, I was in every state except for Alaska and Hawaii in 2017, though I have owned stuff in Alaska and Hawaii in the past. But in 2017, we bought houses in every state except for Alaska and Hawaii.
That's amazing.
I realized that the East Coast and the West Coast are places you don't want to own real estate. You don't want to own real estate in the left-leaning states, I guess. So you don't want to own in Chicago or Detroit or any of those big cities because they chase capital away. And so that was a lesson I kind of learned, and I need to update my book and tell people not to buy real estate in those states. And you want to buy real estate in states that are growing, that are pro-business and pro-hardworking people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. Tell us more about what geographical areas you like.
Well, so I like Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida, Arizona, Nevada, all those kind of states. And I think kind of what I really realized is Texas is a pretty big state. and you really should invest locally if you want to actually have an impact on your investments. When you buy out of state, it's hard for you to actually affect change on those deals. So as a general rule, I'm trying to stay in Texas going forward, except I did buy a property in Connecticut last week, 150,000 square foot office building. And it's like 30 minutes from downtown New York. But for the most part, I'm really trying to stay in Texas unless I, get some random deal. And I guess last week I bought a Dollar General store in Arkansas
When you
also.
when you were purchasing in every state except for Alaska and Hawaii, what was the reasoning behind that? Did you just want to learn more about each area?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
No, I would get a list of about 1,000 properties a month, and I would just bid the whole list. And I just, I didn't pick any particular state. I just had a little formula of buying the stuff that was appraised for 50,000 for half of the appraised value, and I would end up with about 80 properties a month.
Wow. That's so impressive. And how did you manage all that? What did your team look like?
It was just me and maybe one or two assistants.
Wow.
And I just tried to figure out how to buy stuff I've never seen and sell it to people I've never met just to see if I could do it. And my whole goal is how do you reduce the amount of hours per transaction just to see if I could do it. I felt like 1,000 was enough.
Yeah.
And so I did
Oh my
1,000
God.
and I stopped. But, a lot of people, they end up buying one house and it takes them 18 months to get it renovated and sold.
Right.
And they just get bogged down in the details. And so my thing is, that's why I didn't want to become a heart surgeon. I'm like, you can only physically do so many heart surgeries a month. And if it takes you 18 months to get a real estate deal done, you can only do, 100 deals in your lifetime.
Right.
So my thing is, how do you compress the amount of time it takes to get a property bought and sold?
Wow.
And then just kind of how do you focus on the most important stuff and not all the fluff that doesn't really matter?
And what would be like, I don't know, like a time management tip that you have? You're able to do so much by yourself.
I try to spend 80% of my time focused on solving the biggest problems of the day. But then you still have to spend 20% of your time on the other stuff. Otherwise they never get dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But spend at least 80% of your time on solving the big problems. But you still have to spend a little bit of time on all the stuff that just takes, the problems that take forever to solve that are really low yield. Otherwise they never get dealt with. And you can end up with a problem that's never dealt with for 30 years. So that's kind of my rule. 80% on the most important problems, and then still spend 20% on the brain damage stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, you've been able to do so much. So right now you're kind of focused on office buildings, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us more about that, the opportunity there.
Everything was overpriced, I think, in the real estate market. And when interest rates were zero, everything has a long way to fall down. And prices are really sticky because people don't want to get rid of their properties because the interest rates are so low. And so they're kind of carrying stuff and feeding a $2,000 or $3,000 a month of negative cash flow because they don't want to take a $200,000 hit when they sell the property. And so it's kind of like a slow burn. So all those prices on single family houses and everything are still artificially high right now. Office buildings got just totally hammered and obliterated. And I think they got obliterated because no one can afford to cover the carry. And when all their notes came due in 5 years, they bought these properties with 2 and 3% interest rates. And now the interest rates are at 7 or 8% and the appraisals are low. None of the stuff cash flows at the higher interest rates, and they're upside down. They owe more on the properties than they are worth. So it's kind of like a big snowball effect. Mm-hmm. So I believe you can buy office buildings sometimes for 75 cents on the dollar. 25 cents on the dollar of replacement cost.
Is there ever a time? Oh, keep going.
But the big issue is the people that have the experience to run office buildings, owned office buildings, and just got hammered. So I would say 85% of the people in the office space are just got obliterated. So there are just a lot of people out there that want to do it, but if you don't have the experience to buy an office building, maybe you shouldn't do it.
Right. Right. And is there ever a time in the market where you just don't participate at all, or is there always a sector that makes sense?
Well, I would say when interest rates got to zero about 18 months into it, there was nothing that made sense. But what happened during the pandemic, there was nobody to work in the timber mills. So what happens, plywood and 2x4s got really expensive, but there was a glut of timber. So timber prices dropped like a rock. So that was the only part of the real estate market I thought that there was some equity. Um, where the prices are good. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times we had an everything bubble when interest rates were zero. So basically we're going to have an everything bust. And that's kind of what we're having.
Yeah.
And I believe the only reason why the stock market's high is the government printed trillions and trillions of dollars during the pandemic, and the money's got to flow somewhere. It either flows into real estate, into bonds, or into the stock market. And so I think we have a massive bubble in the stock market, but I also think there are only certain sectors of the stock market that are booming. And like a lot of the stuff in the S&P is flat or actually lower now than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who's maybe starting out investing right now?
The first place I would invest is in yourself and in knowledge. And I wouldn't just be really excited about pulling the trigger. I'd go find someone that's doing what you want to do and just go work for them and solve all their problems. Because if you have one house, it takes you a really long time to solve all the problems associated with one house. But if you go work for someone who has 100 houses, that means in 1 year, you've got the same experience as if you had had one rent house for 100 years. Does that make sense? So you can learn a whole lot more, learn how to solve a whole lot more problems, and then go out, if you enjoy what you're doing, then go out and buy your first house.
Yeah.
So go work for someone first.
I think that's really good advice. I think people get really excited about the possibility of working for themselves or the possibility of building their own equity, and maybe move into things a little quickly.
Yeah.
And what would be maybe just something you learned along the way from a mistake that, turned into a really great lesson?
Don't buy stuff on the East Coast. Don't be in markets where you don't have a competitive advantage, and really stay in markets where you have a competitive advantage, and then basically learn your stuff. I mean, know more than your competition, and only do things that you have a competitive advantage on. So don't compete with a hedge fund. Don't compete with someone who only needs to get a 6 cap on their money. Unfortunately, that means you have to deal with all the brain damage property. But learn how to solve problems, be a problem solver, and then find a problem and solve it. The bigger the problem is that you solve, the more money you're going to make. That's kind of what I tell my kids. I said, well, you can feed somebody a hamburger because they're hungry, and you can only make $1 on that hamburger. You can help someone find a car, and you can make $1,000 on a car. But if you can help someone find a home to live in, you can make 10 or 20 or $30,000 on the home. So, find the biggest problem that somebody else has and solve that for them, and, work on being in service to others. And then the bigger the problem you solve for others, your bigger your compensation is. But don't make making money your ultimate goal. Make solving other people's problems your goal. And the byproduct is you'll earn a good living doing it.
I think that's such great advice. I mean, really invaluable and great. What you were telling your kids too. It's all really good stuff. So tell us where we can find you.
I'm in Austin, Texas. My name's David Buttross. I've got a little Facebook page. I kind of don't know if I even have a website anymore. I've kind of been slowing down a little bit. I've got 4 boys at home. But if you do need me, my email address is david@buttross.com. You can email me, or you can call my office, 512-320-0888, or find me on Facebook and send me a little message in Messenger. If you have a bunch of real estate questions, I wrote a book called Long-Term Greedy, How Doing the Right Thing the Right Way Pays Off in the Long Run. I think it's like $1 you can get as an ebook. You read it, I'll answer any questions you have. But it should answer most of your questions for a beginning real estate investor.
Love that. Well, everyone, I really encourage you to check out David and his book. That's a lot of great information. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for the interview.
And thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you back next time.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.